It's got to record. Here we go. Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Ian Ramirez with the Venue Help Desk, along with my husband, Paul Petty. We own a venue in Conroe, Texas called Madera Estates. We are business partners with the lovely Shannon Tarrant, and we are a resource for wedding venue owners and managers, helping them solve any problem one step at a time. We want to thank you for joining us today for this fantastic webinar, 5 hacks to respond to leads faster and boost your sales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss it over to Miss Shannon now, and she's going to take us away for today's mini masterclass.
You are stuck with me today. All right, let me get my screen shared, make sure you can see everything. Let me make sure I get the chat open just in case something starts popping off. I will get her open and over on the side of the screen. And Ian and Paul are going to disappear and just be there and mute themselves and hide themselves. Well, I'm so excited to have you all here for this topic. We're trying to bring more and more education that's heavily venue specific to be able to give you guys the tools, the tips, everything that you need to continue to find success in your business. So for those of you, I know many of you who are here, but there's many that I don't know. My name is Shannon Tarrant. I'm a venue coach and mentor for the last 10 years, former wedding sales and marketing manager at Mission Inn Resort, where I got to spend about 5 years taking that venue from nobody had ever heard of it to the top of the market. So we increased sales about 300% in less than 18 months. And a lot of the behaviors, tips, tools, things that we talk about with Venue Help Desk is from those proven successes all the way through. So what do I do now? One of the businesses that I own along with Venue Help Desk is called weddingvenuemap.com. And what that is we are a local directory here in the Central Florida market that we connect couples planning their wedding to venues specifically and amazing vendors that are vetted and of the highest quality. But why does that have any effect on me teaching you? Because I live in this great weird space in between the couples planning their wedding and the businesses. So because we're a free resource for couples, they overshare all their dirty details and what they're looking for and what they're frustrated with. And that allows us to bring you guys content, the newest, the freshest. I do like 25 wedding shows a year. So I am constantly talking to those couples. But again, as a free resource, it gives me the education and the knowledge to be able to teach you that honest feelings that the couples are having as they're working on their weddings and at their events. Now, as Ian mentioned, Ian and Paul are the owners and they run Madera Estates. Paul does all the business development. The reason that's important is to know that Madera is our testing ground. As a venue company, every idea we've got or thing we want to test and try or things that we think will work if we do it right, we use Madera to test all of it. And so a lot of the data and things you'll see that I'm going to talk about and share today is data and information that I'm pulling directly from Madera's actual experience, based upon some of the behaviors and things that Paul and Ian and their team have shifted to make sure that they work. So for those of you that it's your first time exposed to Venue Help Desk, we're excited to have you here. Like Ian mentioned, we're really here to focus and working with wedding and event venues, solving one problem at a time. I know the whole thing can be overwhelming when you're frustrated or you've got one challenge and you just need that answer and that tool and that resource that kind of done for you. Let me just plug and play it right in. But we're here to share education, knowledge, experts, professionals, tools, systems, really to continue to help your venue find those successes and grow. And Venueversity is the flagship educational program by Venue Help Desk. So we hosted an amazing workshop in June here in Orlando, and we've got another one coming up this September. But make sure you stay all the way to the end because we've got an amazing bonus for you if you stay here with us. But it was 2 days of in-person hands-on learning, a workbook, facilitated action time, not a huge to-do list after the fact. A lot of things we got it done while we were together, connecting with venues just like you. And a few of our attendees from Venueversity are here live with us today. So if you loved it, drop in the chat, give us a woohoo, like what'd you learn, what'd you take away from it, so that other people can kind of learn some ways that they can participate with that also. So what you might be thinking, why are we talking about this today? Ultimately, the conversation about getting back to leads faster is so important. And as we were working through a lot of the things at Venuversity, we know that you needed to follow up with your leads as quickly as possible. But this is our first graduating class from Venuversity. But we were so inspired by a lot of them that not only did they need the system in place, but they were really looking for tools and systems to put in place within their business to follow up with the leads quicker. Not just how to do it, but how to do it as quickly as possible. So when it comes to following up with your leads, we like to think of it a lot like fishing. This is Ian's stepdad, and he's got a great quote: responding to leads at your venue is like fishing. The first step is all about making that initial hook. So the bait when it comes to working with leads and booking weddings and events at your venue is the marketing and the website. But that hook is the first initial lead response, and it really matters. Then you reel them in with that communication to book a tour and appointment, and then we catch and release. We either dead the lead or we move them on to the next step of an appointment and a conversation. Whether it's fishing or responding to your leads, speed matters. We've got to quickly make that initial hook before they swim away and start moving on to the next thing, whether the next thing is considering one of your competitors, or they just get back to their life and you've had to have experienced that before. You were looking for information on something, you started Googling, searching, and then all of a sudden the phone call comes in, the doorbell rings, something gets delivered, dinner's done cooking, and you walk away. So that speed is really key to some of that success. We love us some stats and figures over here. 78% of leads convert with the first company that responds. This is according to Lead Connect. Soak some of these things in as you're thinking about it. 78%. The first company that responds is the one who ends up converting. So it's so key to jump on things as quickly as possible. So we're going to take a little poll down in the chat. So I want you to answer this question. There's no judgment. Answer down in the comments. Be honest. How quickly do you respond to your leads? No cheating. Don't lie. No BSing around here. We don't believe in that. So how quickly are you getting back to your leads? Does it depend on time of year and seasonality? Sometimes that matters. Does it depend upon the day of the week that it comes in? But in general, how fast are you getting back to those leads when it first comes in? Okay, I see you within 24 hours. I used to be better at it. That's true. Things get in the way sometimes. ASAP, but no later than 24 to 28 hours, within 4 hours, within minutes. All right, Andrea, I'm here for it. Nancy, day of, within a couple of hours. I text. Awesome. Remember too, if you guys want to connect with each other in the chat, just flip that little blue thing from host and panelists to everyone. But this is so important. So what would happen, it seems like you guys are doing a really good job, but what would happen if you were able to follow up within 1 hour? What about within 30 minutes? What about within 5 minutes? The Harvard Business Review shared that at least you are 22 times as likely to convert when you contact them within 5 minutes. Think about that for a minute. 22 times more likely to convert if you could get to your leads within 5 minutes of their initial response. Oh my God, could you imagine within 1 minute? This one sounds crazy, right? Well, I'm going to kill myself to get to 5 minutes. Why am I going to do 1 minute? How many of you think that responding within 1 minute would improve your conversion rate? It does. Responding to leads in the first minute can improve your conversion rate 391%. Is that sexy enough to get you to think, how do I get faster at this? Every hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes that I can shave off of this is going to get me closer to this 391% increased conversion rate. All important info. So now that you know how important this is and the data doesn't lie, let's give you some tips and ways that you can improve your processes to move a little bit quicker. First and foremost is about responding during high inquiry times. While we tend to, maybe track things about our leads, like how many come in that week or how many came in that month overall, one of the things that we found in working with venues is that they weren't always tracking their data when it comes to inquiry time. So It's to be able to do this, you have to understand your data and be tracking this. Data is king when it comes to making these decisions about your venue, right? And about your space and about your business. You really have to think like you have to have knowledge and information. So, what you want to start paying attention to or go back and look at what's your peak activity by time of day. So, we're going to start by time of day. So, and we'll use a case study, we'll use Madeira Estates. So, here's a case study on the website contact form between January and April of 2024 by time of day. So when you start to look at these, really like what story does this tell? Meaning that, about, I don't know, 16% of their leads are coming in between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then another 9% after hours. Once you start paying attention to when are the heaviest time frames, right? That your leads are going to come in. There's an uptick in inquiries around lunchtime and after dinner. It's important to start paying attention to when they're coming in if you're going to try to respond back to them faster. So then we're going to look at, they also on the Madeira website, if you haven't been over there, there's an investment guide on their site. So this is another way they funnel leads in using like a white paper. It's a place for them to download the pricing. So this is when the investment guide was downloaded, and the numbers are pretty similar, except look at the shocker. 12 a.m. to 1 a.m., they still had 7% download. Now, let's be realistic. We are not getting back to leads manually within 1 minute, 5 minutes, and an hour by when they're emailing us at midnight. So it's about figuring out what systems we need to put in place to be able to work it through. It really falls in line with a lot of the website inquiries, around the lunch hour. And there's people laying in bed late at night before they go to sleep, and they're like searching and looking. It's part of that like scrolling time frame. Oh, let me go start looking at stuff. And maybe they go down the Instagram rabbit hole, and they're like, oh, I like that. And they're clicking, and they've gone all the way down through to get to yours, to get to the website. Shockingly, they're like, well, I'll request the info. All right. It's really important to figure it out. So what is your peak activity? Not only by the time of day, but we also want to be tracking as a metric your highest inquiry by day of the week. All of this is going to matter onto how to get faster, right? So peak activity for the website contact form is clearly Saturday, Sunday, right? Almost 36% over the course of the weekend, and another 16% was over the course of Monday, Tuesday. Why does this matter, right? What story is this telling? It's couples are doing a lot of planning on the weekends when they're off. But most of the time, you're busy on the weekends because you're out there making memories happen and curating the events that you're actually hosting. And so we've got to figure out how to make this a little bit easier. Same data, a little bit interesting, a little bit different in regards to the investment guide specifically, right? It's by day of the week, it's a little bit different. So they're planning and doing a little bit more maybe price comparison and things like that while they're at work. So the reason for the higher uptick on the Mondays is, you remember that 12 a.m. to 1 a.m.? There's a lot of that happening on Monday morning overnight coming through. So all of that makes big differences. So now what can you do with this data, with this information? How can you use it to actually respond to leads faster? First and foremost, you can batch and block your calendar for lead follow-ups during peak activity. We used to do this a lot when I worked at the resort that I worked at, knowing that 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock was a heavy time frame of leads. If they were looking and searching during those time frames, well, hell yeah, we would do a lot of our follow-ups in that window of time. So if your data shows that a higher percentage of leads are coming in over the weekend, you might need someone or something to respond in that time frame when you're out of office, rather than that lead just sitting in your inbox and dying. One of the venues that we've worked with in the past actually hired a college intern that just did nighttime inquiries. They managed that. And you might not have the ability to go out of your way to hire an extra person. But what you can do is start testing and learning. You have to figure out ultimately like what's going to yield the best results, but the time blocking is the key. So once you have that data and when's the most popular, when they're the most active, you want to start blocking those times in your calendar to pay attention to the follow-up. I think sometimes that we just get in the zone of like, I'm going to fit it in where I can. If initial lead comes in is great. But then if they're filling out the initial lead form at that time, that's probably also a good time to do your follow-ups, because that's when they're actively have a break to do it after, dinner in the evening and during that lunch break, and looking at the different days of the week. Okay, hack number 2 is to save pre-written responses. There are most common questions that when people are planning a wedding, an event, looking for a venue or your services, what it is they're looking for. So there's a few really common overall questions that get asked. One is, what are your packages? What's your pricing? Do you have my date available? You want to cheat as fast as possible as you can to have these responses pre-saved, pre-written responses, so that you have them on your phone, on your desktop, anywhere you can put them. So you can do an Excel doc. Like back in the day, I used to have an Excel doc on my desktop with the history of all the questions I've received and the answer I gave them. So I could just open that up and copy paste the answers instead of having to think it through. I think that one of the things I like to do on my phone, and every cell phone does the same thing. I'm an iPhone user. There's something called keyboard shortcuts. So you could put in a keyboard shortcut that says like lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, lead 4, like, or pricing XYZ or things like that. You can make a keyboard shortcut in your phone that actually has hyperlinks, things like that, that you can just open up the reply email. A lot of people create a note in their phone and they copy paste off of a note, and I think that's great. But I'm too lazy to have to do those extra steps if I can cut the time to get it back faster. I can see a lead come in, click a button, and send it through. Now, that's assuming we don't have automations built in with CRMs, but all of that will help as well all the way through. So if you are somebody who advertises within the Wedding Pro platform on somewhere like The Knot, they've got some really cool quick reply features where you can pre-save these answers. So start looking back through what are the questions I get asked over and over and over again, and then save those as a quick reply so that you can move quicker, right? All things like that. One of the other things you can do, this is a super next level hack for people who are using the DMs for sales. If you're like, oh no, I don't use the Instagram DMs like that, that's fine. But there is a tools inside of Instagram called saved replies. And so we'll show you the quick step-by-step process on what saved replies look like. So you would go to your account, you go to messages, you go to the 3 little dots at the top, and you click on the tools. When you do that, one of the options is going to be called saved reply. Now you can save up to 25 saved replies within your account. When you use this, then anytime somebody asks me for pricing or can I book a tour, I can just type in the word tour in the DM. So where it says shortcut or message, the shortcut is going to be what's the one quick word that you want to type in. So I would type in the word tour, and then I would have a pre-saved message that's like, we would love to have you come out for a tour. Here's a link to our online appointment booker. And it even puts the hyperlink in. So you really only have to think through, what are the ways that I can use this? 20, you can only do 25. That's the most, right? But like, what are the ways that I can go in and have these so that I can respond quicker? Does that make sense? Like one, I hope you guys are you using Instagram DMs for sales? I hope you are. I hope you're starting to pay attention to who's commenting things, liking on things and stuff like this. So you can get in there and start using these hacks just to save time all the way through. Now, we helped one of our recent graduates at the June Venuversity workshop in Orlando with her lead responses, and she had some great things to say.
We just finished up day 2 of Venuversity. We just had our graduation. The energy is insane. I feel like I'm gonna go home tomorrow and incorporate so many things. I've actually already incorporated a few. So yesterday or last night when I got back, I responded to 7 leads. And because of the things that Ian said in the email, I was able to qualify 4 of them and already booked 3 tours for when I get back.
Crazy, right? Like when you start to just think about what you're putting in these emails and all of that stuff. I mean, Leah had some amazing success stats, which you can see here on this screen. She got 55 leads. She got 22 tours booked out of it, 8 bookings from those tours, proposals out, right? If you can get to them faster with better content, in terms of what's included, that you're qualifying them a little bit better, it's amazing what you can do. And we're literally doing 2 days of lead management coming up in September. Okay, next up, your next hack is to enable notifications. This is going to sound like, are you guys kidding me right now? But we want to be really strategic with our phone net notifications. There's specific notifications we're going to talk about, and every single phone can do this. You can actually batch your notifications for fewer interruptions. I think sometimes, I don't know about you, but like I'm busy and then I look down at my phone and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many text messages, emails, Instagram notifications, all the things popping up at once. Now, I really need to focus on which like notifications I want to receive and when at most time frame. So you can actually prioritize what's important to you. If you're like Monday through Wednesday from 9 to 5, I need to see if leads come through, emails come through, text messages come through and whatever, but like I don't need a notification from Delta during that time frame. Does that make sense? You can actually control these. We'll show you how to do it on an iPhone, but you can actually control the notifications. The reason we're teaching you this as a way to respond faster is because you're getting freaking distracted. We all do it. Changing this was like life-changing for me to not only go into all the different apps on my phone, turn off a ton of the notifications, but outside of just turning them off, I was like, well, sometimes I do want to see that notification for my favorite clothing store, but I don't need to see it at 1 o'clock and then it pops up and then I pick up my phone and then I start online shopping like an idiot when I'm supposed to be following up with my leads. So you go into your settings, you look at notifications, and there's an option called scheduled summary on an iPhone. And you can turn that on and say it will give you a summary of all of the notifications that came in at different times of day. And then you can kind of go through app by app and decide like which ones do I want to get notified when. It's crazy, right? It's really a time management hack that will lead to better time structuring when it comes to managing your leads. Next up is hack number 4 is auto responses. Now, like I said, if somebody's emailing you at 11 o'clock at night, midnight, whatever, you're not going to manually respond to them. So there is an opportunity with a lot of the technology that exists out there for your venue, for your business, is to create auto responses and better auto responses. The misconception is that a lot of times people think that the auto responses don't really count as a quick reply. That when we're saying responding within 5 minutes, within 1 minute, the auto response counts. But you have to know and have the knowledge that if within your website form, if that's a form that ties to your CRM, something needs to be getting sent immediately. And so these auto responses count immediately as that quick first response, particularly when they add value to their experience with your venue. So outside of just what they were looking for, where's the added value that comes in that auto respond? I've seen so many bad ones. Things like, thank you so much. Your emails landed safely in our inbox. I mean, it's like a waste. Okay, good. I know you got it, but that definitely doesn't feel like a response. You know, it just feels like a bleh. So what should be included in the auto response you're creating? Are you guys using auto responses from your web forms? Drop it down in the chat. Yes, I'm using it. No, I don't use it. Or maybe we haven't. Maybe we've used it in the past and we've turned it off. Or maybe I've said it and forget it and I forgot what the hell it looks like. Something you might want to review. So you want to identify your goals of the auto response, right? Are you wanting to buy time or start an immediate dialogue? So an example of auto response that buys time is like an out of office reply, right? So like if I am traveling to come speak at a conference or speak for your organization in whatever market, I'm going to put up an out of office that says, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. You know, we're not in the office, blah, blah, blah. I actually think every single wedding pro, when the weekend hits, if on their main email box, they should tell people like, we're out working weddings and making memories happen on these days. Follow along with our journey over on our Instagram stories here. You know, we'll respond back to you as soon as we can. I think we should be clear about setting expectations, but that's the kind of auto response that buys time, is an out of office. Now, an auto response that we're talking about here is one that starts a dialogue that ends with a question, because it's going to send immediately, maybe within 5 minutes, maybe within an hour. But the ultimate goal is we're trying to start the sales dialogue to go through. So let's talk through the basics of your auto response. You should acknowledge that at the foundation, they need to acknowledge that it's an auto response. See, you don't want your clients to actually think that it's you who emailed them back at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. So a phrase or an introductory sentence that lets them know that this isn't a human response, it's like super key. Consumers actually know that if an email is coming within a minute or 60 seconds, that it's an auto response. So there's no need for you to try to fake it. So like our best recommendation that we have seen work time and time again is to own the fact that it is an auto response. Okay, so we want to acknowledge the auto response first. Then we want to indicate a response time frame. When should they expect to get a live response from you? This should be in your auto response. We usually follow up within 24 hours, or we'll be back into the office tomorrow, or whatever that looks like. You can't always set it based upon time of day or day of week and things like that. That might get a little bit complicated, but just when should they expect to hear from you? And then I want you to include value added content. Is it a real wedding blog? Is it a link over to your Instagram? Are you killing it over on stories? So you're like buying time right there by saying, this is when you'll expect to hear from us. And here's where you can like follow along with the journey, where we're at, what we're doing. Here's a blog post, some more tips, helpful tips, information, but like, how can you give them value added content? So here's a great auto response. Wedding planning just got a whole lot easier. We're thrilled for you to experience Venue XYZ and are grateful for the opportunity to learn more about your wedding. Just like a perfectly timed wedding march, this auto reply is here to let you know we've received your message and one of our team members will be in touch within 24 to 48 hours. In the meantime, please be sure to follow along over on our Instagram page for our most recent work and behind the scenes wedding footage. Right? It checks all the boxes. It acknowledges it's an auto response. It tells them when it's gonna, to expect the time frame. And then there's value added content of saying, follow along on the journey with the link over to our Instagram page. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but I think that depends on the funnel of where they're coming through. If it's the investment guide and they're like, I wanted to see the pricing, obviously you're going to deliver that piece all the way through. But then we've got to focus on starting a dialogue, right? We've got to do the formula that encourages a response all the way through is a totally different option. Buying time is a great place to start. If you're like, I'm not sending an auto response right now and that's all I need, I got to start somewhere. The buying time is a great option. But a little bit more advanced than that is going to be about starting a dialogue, because we want to still acknowledge the auto response, give them a value phrase, and then a low impact question. See, because if they've already followed you and they're, I don't know, they're already on your Instagram, they're already in there. Something is better than nothing to buy you time and say, follow our game over here. But wouldn't you rather get that sales process going? So starting the dialogue is a little bit different. It would look something more like this, right? It's an auto response, encourages the dialogue all the way through. Wedding planning just got a whole lot easier. And while this message is a little automated, our enthusiasm for your special day is absolutely real. We're thrilled for you to experience Madeira Estates and grateful for the opportunity to learn more about your wedding. As part of our most popular services, we provide your catering, bar, cake, DJ, wedding coordination, and more. But most importantly, you enjoy a one-of-a-kind backdrop for your celebration and a stress-free wedding planning experience every couple deserves. Before sending over some recommendations on the services that best fit your need, I'd love to learn more about you and your fiance. Tell me, are you considering Madeira Estates for both your ceremony and reception? Super low impact, right? It's just we're starting a conversation. The value phrase is, what's that benefit that will the lead enjoy when they choose your venue? Why do people choose your venue, right? That's that value phrase, that stress-free wedding planning experience that every couple deserves is the value phrase in this email. But if you're thinking about, what's that big benefit that when someone works with you and hires your company, your venue, your business, what is it that you do better that you can really help them with? And then you want to finish it up with a low impact question. Don't be asking them 42 questions. Don't be asking them something super complicated, a choice of one or two, or, just something to get that conversation rocking and rolling. Right. And these are actually email auto responses going through that we're talking about from your, sorry, I moved past the Instagram DMs. These are from your website. So this is someone filling out the contact form on your website. If you've got digital downloads, things like that, this is where these auto responses would be sending out. It would be direct from your web form, like the inquiry form on your contact page, or whichever way you're kind of funneling people through. Okay. That was Hack number 4, the last hack of the day, is meeting them where they are. And that's specifically on mobile devices. This is going to be a hot topic, but me, Ian, and Paul are going to die on the hill. We're dying on it. I don't really care what you think. We're just going to go through. In general, in today's world, the client you're trying to target, weddings specifically, are usually between the ages of 25 and 35. Well, guess what? I'm not within that age group. I'm 43. And you know what I don't want to do? Talk to you on the phone. I'm a text machine, text sending machine. I've got my mom trained. I've got my mother-in-law trained. Do not call me. Text me first. And then if I'm available, I will call you back. We have to meet our customers, today's customer, where they are at and where they are doing business. And where they are doing business is in text messages and DMs. We actually, through on Wedding Venue Map, we actually have I have seen current couples fill out the website form for a vendor they were reaching out to and say, can you please just text us because we don't check our email? It's bad. Like, I've got stepkids in their 20s who are in college and they never check their email. Like, they just don't read it. So you have got to meet people where they are at. So a really amazing tip that we have picked up from Mark Chapman with the I Do Society is make the phone number form on your website, make that field optional, and change the text on that says phone number if you prefer texting. When they changed this on, so Mark and his company is the I Do Society, and they run social media ads and Google ads, and for venues, wedding shows, like specific vendors in the wedding and event space. Now, if a client sees an ad, gets to that landing page, they're getting to this form, and the form has name, email required, maybe event date required, but instead of the phone number being required, and it's saying just phone number, it just says phone number if you prefer texting. Guys, they immediately saw an uptick. It went from 25% of people filling it out when it was phone number not required to 70% of them were willing and asked to be texted. And so if your phone number is required on the website and it's required and it doesn't say anything about texting, you would be shocked how many of them are just bouncing because they don't want you to call them. I kind of feel that way. I mean, I'll just whip you to voicemail if I'm not in the mood to talk to you. But there are, like Ian sharing, so many leads are like, I get too many emails and then they drown in them. Whether they've created a wedding email address, which some of them still do, but a lot of them don't anymore, they're drowning in their own emails. And so, you can connect in a space that no one is in. So as soon as you get their cell phone number, it is freaking game on, because now you can text them because you've gotten permission. So I have a quick question for you. How many of you are actually texting your leads? I saw somebody mention it earlier, but can you dump it down in the chat? Are you texting your leads now? Is this something you're doing? Are you like, and if you're not, can you tell me why? Like, who's not texting with leads? I am, but not very well, in my opinion. Okay. Is anybody like, I'm not texting them at all? I am, but the rules have changed with consent on the website. That makes sense. But if you actually use this verbiage, if you use this verbiage, it meets the requirements. So if you change it to say phone number, if you prefer texting, that is the opt-in. So get rid of the checkbox and switch the verbiage over to this. Because somebody had said, oh, I have, but it changed with consent on the website. And go through on some of those things. We don't work with cell phones, only personal cell phones, and we're not permitted to use our personal cell phones. Okay, that is one of the biggest pushback pieces that we hear. There are so many services, guys. You can get a Google Voice number for $7 a month. There's all these texting services out there that are actually like computer-based. So it's not even they come with an app. So like my business uses Google Voice. Everybody's got separate phone number, Google Voice numbers. And so it comes through on an app on their phones if they choose to, but most of my team just replies to those text messages when they're on the computer, because it also sends into their email address, depending upon which service you use. So there's definitely so many options out there. I see one, we've got an auto response on text that works great. Just let them know we've already sent the information by email. That's awesome. So texting provides Gen Z within the freedom to craft their responses, edit their messages, and choose when to engage in the conversation. But the stats are crazy about how much they're able to like just control it, because they check their text messages so constantly. It's so convenient for them to just see a text and read a text. Whereas, because most people's text message notifications are on their phone, whereas not everyone has their email notification set up, because we get so much email and so much crap coming through all the time. But it also offers for you and for us in the industry, it's quick engagement rather than them opening it or, not really, like, they don't open the email, they just delete it and go through. It's quick all the way through. 44% of Gen Z actually check their notifications within a minute of getting a text. Does that mean they're going to respond back to you immediately? Maybe not, but they're actually checking them. So they've seen it. So again, like one of the attendees here suggested, they have a text that goes out just to say, hey, I've emailed you over the information, just making sure you got it, things like that. Simple texting is one of the services. There's so many different ones out there. So here's proof of how quickly leads reply when you text them. All of these images here are showing on how the response within 1 to 10 minutes, right? So as you can see, some of these it's an automated message from Madeira Estates. Thanks for requesting the guide. Paul doing a manual. Thanks for your interest in our venue. I'd love to discuss your venue and the packages we offer. When's a good time to chat? It's within 10 minutes they're replying. Could you imagine, instead of the like 400 follow-up email and chase, if we just texted them? Like if we just kind of took that action to text them instead of just sending. So if you aren't doing this, oh my God, it will change your life. I promise. Best practices when it comes to texting is always introduce yourself, be respectful with timing. Don't be texting people at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Give them the option to opt out. That is, if they're like, stop, which is usually people are like, stop or no, thank you or whatever, make sure they come out of your system. There are so many CRMs that offer this. And offer these pieces. There are text messaging integrations for some of the different, like Zapier, you can do Honeybook and Dubsado, Connect works with Triple C. There's a lot of options out there for you, but you have the ability to use your personal cell phones. We actually got, when I worked at the hotel, we had an office cell phone. Like the company just gave us a phone. It stayed in the office. So we only texted while we were there. We weren't texting after hours. But again, some of the like CRMs have that ability to text. Now, it might be a little bit more advanced than what you're using, but some of them have the ability to like whip out a text message automated, which is something that I know Madeira uses, is something we use within my company. But if you're on the fence, here's some feedback that we got on our post-workshop survey. So the survey we did after we finished the Venuversity workshop is one of our graduates said the section on texting leads was definitely my favorite part of Venuversity. I was skeptical at first, but I started using the texting strategies. We saw a big jump in engagement. It's led to booking tours so much faster, right? Because that's ultimately the goal when you're a venue or a vendor. You're trying to get them to an appointment and to a conversation. Trying to get them past just email after email after email after email. Like, who wouldn't want to get that appointment booked quicker? Well, what if I don't have the ability to text leads? What if I don't want to be a slave to my phone? Like, ultimately, responding slowly is better than not responding at all, right? It's okay. You don't have to be the first of all the things. I mean, there's no reason why you can't have an automated message that gets sent immediately through your website when they complete a form, whether that's tied to your CRM or just from the site. Every website in the history of life can do this. If you're like, mine doesn't, it does, you just don't know how to do it. So contact your web team, your webmaster, whoever in your marketing area does that. You can do things like that. It's just about, today's goal was for us to give you some tools to get faster, right? And the question to start asking yourself, like, you want to ask yourself, am I willing to do more? If I could move the needle further, faster, am I willing? What of these things? Maybe you're like, oh my God, I never thought to organize the notifications on my phone to come in at certain times, right? Like, what are you willing to do? Just little bitty baby changes. Because that's what the whole philosophy and passion of Venue Help Desk is about. When you make tiny changes in your business, the behaviors and things that you change today, you won't actually see the ramifications of it for a little time. But what we loved about doing the Venuversity was 2 days of intensive training. Those who like came back and just like hammered it and started implementing all the things they learned, I mean, the numbers have drastically changed, as you saw with some of Leah's booking numbers. So, the other question to really ask yourself is, am I willing to let the fish off the hook? If I'm not responding fast enough, quick enough, to be able to get back to them quickly, who else is? So am I willing to let the fish off the hook? Like, am I willing to lose them to one of my competitors? Am I willing to let them get away? I mean, I hope the answer to that is no. I hope you're like, damn, I don't want to lose it. You spend a lot of money on marketing and a lot of time between social media and emails and keeping up your online listings and SEO on your website. You're doing all this freaking work to get the lead in. Why not figure out little tiny tweaks you can make to move the needle faster? So if you don't want to let your leads get away, here's a quick recap of the 5 hacks to boost your sales and respond to your leads faster. Responding during high inquiry times. You got to know when this is and start time blocking accordingly. Save your pre-written responses in all of the places a lead comes through. Enable your notifications differently to not get distracted and get the ones you need when you need them. Get your auto responses set and ready to go, whether it's just by email and text, whatever that looks like, and then meet people where they're at. The companies that do not start moving towards texting, literally they're falling behind so quickly, or they're working 2 times harder. And so I can usually get to the lead faster with any venue I work with when I pick up the phone and text them all the way through. So those are the pieces and parts. I have a friend who's a photographer, and we were at Wedding MBA together last year, and she's like, oh, I don't want to text with leads. And a lead came through when she went to the bathroom and she left her phone open. Don't ever leave your phone unlocked around me, because I'll prove to you that you're wrong. She's like, it won't make a difference. While she was gone, I started texting with the lead. And I was like, she could get mad at me that I gave one bride her cell phone number. I started texting back and forth. By the time that woman got back to the bathroom, I was like, can you check availability on the date? I already sent them the link to your packages. They want the 7-hour package and they need to know if you're available. And then if yes, can they book an appointment? And she looked at me. She had been going to the bathroom for like 5 minutes. And I saw the lead pop up on her phone, and I was like, oh, let's get it. I'm going to prove her wrong. Right? Within 5 minutes, I was able to get an appointment booked for her, check availability on a $6,000 package. Instead of waiting, chasing, emailing, we were at a conference. Maybe she wasn't going to get back to them quickly enough. If you found this helpful and got some tips, I hope you let us know down in the chat. If you found this helpful and you got some good tips out of it, you should consider coming to the next Venuversity workshop. We are doing a 2-day full lead management. When I tell you it's about fixing every step along the way, how to qualify your leads, what your follow-up cadence, follow-up templates, all of those things. It is definitely specifically, the content is geared at venues. So if you're not a venue, I'm not saying you couldn't take it and implement it, but we really talk super heavy, some things that are super specific, directly for venues. But in just 2 days, you'll walk away with the exact email templates to stop getting ghosted, Gen Z friendly follow-up sequence that works time after time, a system to quickly identify your TQLs, your tour qualified leads, and book more tours overall. So that in-person workshop is powered by Venue Help Desk. If you are looking to book more tours, any of that stuff, that QR code will take you to the information. And because you stayed and you were here today, it's $250 off. It's coming up quick, September 16th and 17th over in Houston. But so many great, as you can see, we had the most fun with our class last year, earlier this year, in June, really just helping people find that success, that makes the most sense. So if you have any questions, now's the time, drop them down in. Also, if you have any other future webinars, education, Q&As that you want to see from us, now's the time to give us the heads up. You're still here with us. So is there anything else that you're like, I want to learn more about this, or I struggle so much with that? Let us know so we can start working it into our content plan strategy on how to get you more tools and resources faster. Look at that.
Amazing. Thank you, Shannon, for that awesome presentation.
Oh,
Those of you in the chat, I would love for you to drop your biggest takeaway into the chat today. We do have one question that popped up. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat or drop it in the Q&A section. Mary Angelini has a question. She says, should we consider reaching out to our older leads I'm assuming leads that you haven't talked to in a while via text, even if it's their first or second contact.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
do
mean,
you mean older leads? Do you mean Angelina or Mary? Do you mean older leads as in like demographic, like they're not 25 to
I think
35?
she means like 3, 6, 7 months ago. They're just kind
Or
of
do you
hanging
mean like
out.
old leads, like dead leads? Can you clarify for us in the chat?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that like probably one of my favorites texts like a month ago they reached. Oh, that's not even old, girl. A month.
Yeah, that's not
These
old. Text
client,
the
they're just researching and they're not making moves forever right now. So yes, you should text them. We actually would like text, and sometimes we didn't get a response, and we try like 2 or 3 text messages, and literally my fourth text message would just say like, "Are you still looking for a venue? Just reply yes or no." That was it. I don't care. Just give me a yes or a no. You just give me a Y or an N. Tell me anything. And so 100%. We even like I worked with a bridal salon that used to do a lot of wedding shows, and you get those massive wedding show lists. Well, at the wedding show on the form they opted in for texting if they gave them their phone number. So I said to her, "Hey, why don't you pull out that old list and just text through anybody that opted in and say, are you still looking for a wedding dress? Yes or no? Hey, it's Susie from bridal salon XYZ. Are you still looking for a wedding dress? Just reply yes or no." She would get like an 80% reply. And if they said yes, she'd be like, "Amazing, we're having a sample sale. We have appointments this weekend." She'd book appointment after appointment after appointment because text messaging, the open rates are higher and it's a fast and furious response. I respond to text messages faster, don't you?
1,000%. I respond to them so much faster than anything else. And it's that sense of immediacy. Yeah, she says, yes, of course. It's that sense of immediacy. And really the goal that you hit on, Shannon, about like starting that conversation right away. You're hooking that fish right
Yep.
when they're active and communicating with you. Let's see. Rosise asks, is there going to be a replay? Yes, there is
Yes.
going to be a replay. We are going to send it out to everybody. I do have a replay of my presentation as well if you do want it. But we are going to send today's presentation out to everybody to receive. So you'll have a copy of this webinar. Yes,
Yes.
please.
Is there any other content that you guys can think of that you're like, "Oh, I would love to learn more about this," or an area of your business that you're struggling that you wish somebody could come and kind of teach you and help you and give you some guidance? Or any other questions before we wrap it up today? We're here for you to use us and abuse us.
SEO.
Oh, Andrea, you're speaking my language.
Get ready.
Ooh, I love me some SEO. Can you be more specific about SEO? Is it about like getting yourself ranked, doing the behaviors, just understanding it? Like, are you like, I just need somebody to 101 teach me? Ian mentioned you might touch on staff and getting them to respond faster. Oh, staffing, just staffing in general.
So encouraging them to respond faster. I think specifically you had
Oh,
dropped that in there, Greer, when we were talking about responding on the weekends. I
oh
think
yeah.
for us, the biggest change that we've seen, Shannon alluded to this as well in the presentation, is using a lot of those autoresponders, particularly on the weekend, to capture, those lead responses, especially when we're executing weddings. We have the ability to have 2 separate teams. So we have our event execution team and then our sales team. So we actually do a lot of sales in terms of lead response, follow-up, and tours over the weekends while we're simultaneously executing weddings. But I think beyond, encouraging them, Greer, to respond and the importance of responding quickly over the weekend, I think maybe even incentivizing your salespeople or your staff on not just the number of weddings that they book, but the number of tours that they book, right?
Yes.
So I've seen venues that have really implemented a really great incentive program where they're getting them to respond to leads faster to book the tours. So 2 different tiered incentive approaches to get them to respond faster.
Yeah, doing like a small bonus if they for every tour they get booked, and then
Yep.
bigger commission scale if the wedding or the event actually gets booked is a great way. I also think too, like if you can go at it from the perspective, I mean, if assuming they're working, I don't expect people, we have to learn to respect people's working hours and non-working hours. The automated systems can really help things, but I think when they can see the success that comes from the speed, and instead of them having to chase and chase and chase and chase, you'll find that like my team, we kind of flex things through. Somebody is responsible to respond to all. When I worked at the hotel, the only days that leads were not touched same day were Sundays. Sunday was our like nobody works that day, but we actually overlap staff. Like one of the administrative team, she actually only worked Tuesday through Saturday. She didn't work events. She wasn't on site to do. Her butt was in just sitting in the office. And then, because then we also found sometimes on an event Saturday, the phones were blowing up because the guests were lost or somebody needed something. And so, we had a staff member that we flexed their schedule. We shifted them Tuesday through Saturday instead of Monday through Friday for that person on an administrative side. So that's something to think about. Ooh, Mary's got a really good question.
Yeah, I love that question.
Mary, are you seeing that Gen Z couples are taking longer to make any decisions? Ian, why don't you tell them about that lead that just came back after the tour? How long was it in between when they toured and when they booked?
4 years. Yes, the answer is yes, Mary.
I mean, that might be the extreme.
That's extreme. But Paul leads more of our tours, and so he's seen a big uptick. Do you want to share a little bit what you've seen?
Yeah, for me, it's 50-50. That couple that has researched you, they're going to book you quicker. The Gen Zer that's just entering in to look at their venues, it's going to take a little bit longer for them. So yeah, it's just really where they are in their research journey.
Yeah, and it's hard to figure out. I mean, I think it's really interesting right now that I'm in my boyfriend's nieces are 2 of them are getting married. And so it's been wild. It's been wild about like watching what their processes are. She's like, I'm going to start reaching out to venues. And I was like, do you have a guest list? She said 250. And I said, you don't even know 250 people. Girl, I know you. Like, who the hell is on the list? She's never made a list. She just picked a number and was starting to. So I think it's just remembering that process is so hard. It's definitely harder when you're the venue because they haven't figured anything out yet. But I do think really the name of the game in today's world is, we're going to preach it over and over again that the first 30 days of follow-up cadence should be as manual as it can be, some automations on the front, but really that staying on top of people, paying attention, where are they at, giving them value. After 30 days, if they haven't responded at all to anything, it's okay to drop them into automation. But we just have to remember today's world, people are busy as shit. So then all of a sudden we sit there and we're like, now I'm going to wake up and start working on this again. And it could be 2 months later. So Mary, don't give up. As far as I'm concerned, that lead's dead when they're dead. Like when they have written back and said, I've already picked someone.
Yeah. Raziz has a question. Why do leads submit inquiry if they're just in research mode? Hey, there are a lot of leads out there that have no idea what a wedding costs, right? This Gen Z, this next marrying generation, they're just looking to gather information. Like this one example, obviously extreme, the 4 years out. Something that we recently started doing, Raziz, that I think would be a great recommendation for you. You even asked the question, should we be asking where they are in the process? Absolutely. So we recently initiated a new required contact field form on our website that breaks it down into 4 or 5 tiers where it says where they are in the process. One of them is, are you even engaged yet? And it says, I'm not engaged yet. Yeah. So then we can prioritize, or Paul can prioritize which leads are hotter than others. Yeah, Shannon's going to pull it up.
Yeah, so it says here, where are you in your venue selection journey? Not engaged yet, newly engaged, and just looking what's out there, planning mode and building my list of venues to tour, touring venues and haven't found it, or ready to tour, right? You need to figure out from them. It's the easiest way to qualify quickly, because it's okay. It's okay if they're newly engaged and just looking what's out there. That is what my niece is going through right now. She's really trying to figure out. She started pricing tents and I start laughing. Where are you going to put the tent? Like, she goes, well, my friend is a piece of property. And I was like, tent, tables, chairs, dance floor, and bathrooms were at 15,000. And she was like, what? Like, maybe I should get a venue. It's the knowledge that they don't have right now. So I think utilizing that in the forum, this is one of those, like, we play the game of Tested at Madeira. Like, that wasn't on there, and I'm like, maybe it would work for us to kind of look at if we qualify a little bit higher. And so by qualifying the lead with one drop down, not adding 15 fields, but one drop down makes a huge difference. They're just researching, right? What else would they?
Raziz asked one more question, Shannon. She says, should you nurture the lead if they aren't ready?
Heck yeah. I mean, I think it's what Ian and Paul were saying, that like, you don't need to do, I'm not going to chase as hard as quickly. If somebody says I'm ready to tour once a week, oh, Rosie, you need to come to Venuversity, girl. We build out the whole cadence. It's really about, what does it look like over the first 30 days that they kind of come in? Maybe somebody who's researching, you're giving a lot more value to than heavily going into what you have. Like, what are the questions you should be thinking of? How do you build a guest list, right? If they're in that research phase, yes, you want to talk about your venue, but you might want to do a little bit more. I don't think once a week is enough. And that depends on if you're only doing email versus email text, kind of what's the overall cadence of everything you're planning on. But same as like what the guys are experiencing now at their venue, we experienced it at the hotel. People would fill out the lead form and then all of a sudden they tour 4 months later and then they'd book 3 months later. And I was like, this is a 7 month lead. Lordy.
Mhm.
But the money was still there because we stayed on top of it. Yeah, those are
Awesome.
such good questions. And Andrea, I see what you said, SEO to get more attention in Google. I want to be seen more. I got you. I got so many secret tips for that.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Well, hopefully we'll see some of you guys at Venuversity. Is anybody here going to Wedding MBA? Ian and I will both be speaking in the venue track, and we'll have a booth for venue help desk at Wedding MBA as well. And we'll be there. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, email us at hello@venue help desk. Oh, Kate's coming to Wedding MBA. See you in Vegas. If you don't know what that is, there's an amazing conference every November, venue specific. There's a really, really good, they've got tracks, and the venue tracks always kill. I mean, I can't speak for DJs or other categories, but the venue tracks are always awesome. So we'll see you there. If you have any questions, need any help, any support from us, please let us know what we can do to do a better job supporting you. Any other stuff you need, or we're good to go. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Bye. Y'all take care.